day everyone, it's Cindy from Studioloo. Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to share with you a large junk journal that I made. It is essentially a tome. It's a very huge book, so huge that actually I'm going to have to settle that the entire book won't be in frame the whole time because my camera setup can't zoom far enough out to show the whole book to you. So this will be a bit of a preview and I will do my best to show it to you. So anyhow, this is another one of my Fibre Arts Textile Arts themed journals. I found this book. It's actually a Bible. It was a really beautiful book, but it was sort of not being used for its intention, and I figured it would be the perfect thing for a Fibre Arts book because it has this really beautiful gold embossed cover, and it's very puffy. It's like a leather book, but it has some kind of spongy material on the inside that makes it a squishy kind of cover. So yeah, it is a really amazing, enormous book. So I will get started and show you what I can here of the spine. So this book has 4 signatures. It's been bound with a pamphlet stitch that is visible on the outside, and I have threaded on there are 2 of these crochet doilies that are on the book, and the whole book is tied closed with this really beautiful ribbon. And that's the back. This is incredible paper that was made in Koreatown by a local business in Toronto. This is a look at the mouth of the book and all of the crazy, interesting things inside. This book is really, honestly, so much fun. It's kind of hard to let go of. So I will open it up. And this ribbon is just on its own. It can just be set aside. So the cover I actually used on this book and another journal. Actually, I got these incredible vintage dish towels, and so they were 60s and they had these roses on them, and I thought they were so beautiful. And I love the colors of like this tealy blue and rose. That's just like one of my favorite color combinations. So this has been decoupaged on the front. It has a really wonderful texture. It's like a fun book to just touch because it has a nice texture. So then when you open it up, this, yeah, we're mostly in frame. Okay, so there's a pocket at the front made from fabric, and there's a bunch of goodies inside. There is a flower here with some wool sheep's locks. This is an organza fabric flower. And inside, there's some amazing ephemera in this book. So this was a sample from a yarn company that was around in the 70s. It no longer exists, but I inherited an estate from a 70s spinning and weaving guild president. So I have a lot of these kind of treasures that I'm including in these books. I'll also be doing some digitals with these materials. I've scanned many of them and I'm planning to share them soon in the shop. I'll talk about my shop at the end of this video. I actually updated my shop this week for the first time in a long time. So anyhow, I'll return to talking about this journal. So there's also a nice journaling card that's been stitched around, and it's some yarns. And there's a large journaling card with lined paper on the back, and this really cool picture of some interesting weaving. And this is the note from the bookmaker, and you'll see my signature Moonbee books. Oops, I'm trying to get used to where I am in the frame, this giant book. So I have a stamp now that I'm stamping all of my books with. So there's another one of those stamps in the back of the book. It's just my little signature so that you know the book comes from me. And then on this page, we have this little pocket that opens up. It has a button on front, and it flips 2 ways for journaling space. And over here, this is from a natural dyeing manual, and it's just some different things that you can use for vegetable dyes: bracken, blackberries, birch bark, and birch leaves, and some nice ribbon here. And then each one of the signatures is actually one of these file folders. So you could label the tabs if you wanted to. And on this side, we have this pocket with a big journaling tag that demonstrates the left and right side of a collar. And then underneath, we have some nice paper. And over here is a lined pocket. And it has a large knitting card. And on the back is coffee dyed paper. I won't pull out all of these cards because this video will take a long time if I do. This is a really, really big journal. So, and this is my own hand spun yarn that's been sewn all around in a pattern. Some rippling here. And a nice textile magazine image. And here is this is acrylic paint, which is really nice to write on. I'm just going to adjust the light a little bit so it's not so harsh, maybe. There we go. And then I've sewn some ribbon to this pink page. And on this side is an embroidery hoop and some nice damask paper. And on this side of the paper, there's a pocket, and there's some goodies in here. I have a lot, I've put a lot of little journaling cards and tags in these books because I had sort of a make-a-thon of these things. So I had all these textile, these 70s textile books, and I made a lot of ephemera from them. So these are all journaling related, fiber and textile related journaling cards. So there's 4 in this one pocket. And there's writing space obviously at the back. Just a nice vintage book page. And on the back is a pattern from a paper doll magazine. And over here is this really cool fitting guide for skirts from a vintage book. It's 2-sided. And then on this side, we have this little shuttered window that you can, this is Easter egg dyed paper with some orange Easter egg dye. And this is alphabetical cross-stitch patterning. And on this side, we have this really cool 70s image of women talking on a phone. And I've used my own hand spun yarn around the edges. This is a silk yarn. And on the back is lined paper. And then behind it, there's some cool vintage sewing bust images. And this is a coffee dyed pattern paper for an evening pinafore. And on this side, I've actually made this into fabric paper. It's been essentially fully glued to the paper, so you can write on this fabric. And this is actually part of a cool collection that I picked up years ago. There used to be, well, I mean, there still are companies that casted molds for pottery. It was a really huge thing in the 70s and 80s that a lot of ceramic artists would invest in buying molds. And Alberta casting molds in Canada were a major supplier of those molds. So years ago, I purchased a whole collection of these molds, mainly doll heads, but also, I mean, Cabbage Patch dolls, all sorts of different, like, birds and just different things. Most of them I've gotten rid of, but I kept the doll parts for casting my own porcelain dolls. So that's something that I do in the pottery studio from time to time. But this is some of the order forms from the 70s. So you could order all of these different kinds of molds. So I thought it was kind of a cool thing to just throw in here. And I added this skirt hemming French craft book image. And on this side, we have a pocket with an image of some cool embroidery and a big journaling tag coffee dyed paper on back, and this beautiful image of embroidery. Actually, I think that's crewel. There are some things I'm not completely familiar with. This looks like Aida cloth with a bunch of French knots on top, so I'm not sure if that's called crewel. I can't remember. And this is just some a cool, the back page is actually the basic instructions with how to do some basic knitting techniques. And over here is this lined label for writing on, and just some pretty paper and a silver doily. And this is avocado dyed paper with a buttons label, and this is a gridded coffee dyed paper, and at the bottom I've got my own hand spun yarn. I will move the book up a little so you can see, and it has a little felt knob here, little felted bead that I made. There's a lot of handmade aspects to this journal, and I just love how this coffee dyeing came out. I'm really enjoying doing a lot of paper dyeing. I'm probably going to do an onion skin pot this weekend. And then on this side we have just this cute little flip up journaling card with some nice ribbon, and over here we have this cool multi-pocket. So inside this pocket are a bunch of little things. So this is a book page that has been inked and folded in a really interesting way that creates 4 pockets. So in the top pocket we can put this, and then in the second pocket this one and this one. And there's more instructions for the honeycomb cable and the single plated cable. They are cut off though, because this isn't actually an instructional book, it's a journal. But yeah. And then on this page we have the other side of that Alberta mold form for writing on. It's just like lined paper. And then this amazing 70s imagery from a craft book. This coffee dyed paper on back, and it's like a giant journaling card, and it's been attached with 2 paper clips that are adorned with these really cute vintage buttons. I'll take one off and hold it up to the camera so hopefully we can focus on it. They're like little yellow bouquets of flowers, and they just clip right on there. And then this page is coffee dyed pattern image paper, and this bottom card has a really pretty piece of flower embroidery, and it flips up for more journaling space. It's just hinged with some book paper. And then there's a little pocket up here that has a little sticker with a Botero image. Botero is one of my very favorite artists, and this is a little journaling tag. If you've never checked out Botero before, B-O-T-E-R-O, I definitely recommend him. I was able to see one of his exhibits in the Delaware Art Museum, and it was incredible. And then this over here is a big chunky belly band with this amazing 70s woman in this awesome dress with my hand spun yarn sewn all around. And inside is this big journaling card, and it's got this really cool Easter egg die on it, and it just tucks in there. And on this side we have this piece of paper that has a pocket on this side, and I've stuffed it full of things. And on the back is more sewing related and weaving shuttle related imagery. So there are 3 journaling cards in the pocket. This one is this nice yellow fitting guide with lined paper on back. This is a little image of a blouse, sewing a blouse, and just some cool fashion imagery from the 70s. And some acrylic painted paper with more textile imagery, and another piece of that interesting fashion illustration. And then this is a picture of some textile, imagery textiles. And over here we have a piece of paper with more damask and a little flower on this side. This is organza. And then over here we have a piece of fabric that's been sewn to the side, and this is a pocket and some knitting imagery. And inside is a journaling tag with some scissors and a card with this lovely girl. And on this side, I've just put some of that nice raffia ribbon. And over here is a magazine page with some beautiful textiles and some coffee dyed paper. And this is an amazing, you'll see more of this. I'll point it out later on in the book. But this is a pattern for color work for this beautiful image. And then behind it is this is handmade paper that has what they call paper yarn in it. So it's paper that has been like rolled up in tiny threads almost, and it's all immersed in a gluey paper mache type substance. So when it's laid on the handmade paper, it's fully attached to the paper. And we have two large journaling cards. So this is very flouncy blouses. And this is a pattern for like a sports type top with a yoke. And over here we have some coffee dyed pineapple crochet lace, and I made a pocket out of it. And behind it is just some fun coffee dyed paper that's been inked with purple ink and yellow washi tape. And inside of it is this two-sided journaling card with some of my hand spun yarn up top and lined paper inside. And over here, some silk ribbon. This hangs out of the book, and it's a pocket with a journal tag inside. And above it is this cool ribbon that I've sewn down in a fun ruffle, and it flips down with coffee dyed paper for a little more sneaky journaling space. So that's the end of the first signature. And between the two signatures here, I've made this cute little booklet just for some extra writing space. This is paper that I dyed myself and some pink office paper, and the whole journal has been sewn together. On the back, there's some cute images. And you can see the spine through the back of the book is entirely covered in that interesting rose colored, rose patterned cloth. And then this is that colorwork pattern I was talking about. So it's this beautiful floral imagery with a face, and she's just amazing. And some floral paper here and some vintage embroidery in black flowers. And on this side, we have a giant envelope, and inside it is a couple of big journal cards. So a couple more of those sort of 70s ladies images. And on the back of this one is speckly coffee dyeing, and on this one is gold stitching. I don't know if you can see that up close. And both of these cards have been sewn around, so they're really nice and sturdy. And on this side, you'll see throughout this whole series of Fibre Arts journals that I'm sharing, these are incredible Brazilian crochet blueprints. And so these are throughout this whole series of journals, so they're really, really pretty. And on this page, I've just added a little booklet with coffee dyed lined paper inside, so it's just extra writing space. And over here we have a really cute pin cushion that's been made from granny squares. And on this side is a pocket with a big journaling card with really, really cool imagery. And this is a magazine page that I've covered with vintage sewing pattern paper. And this is just a nice scrapbook paper with some of my yarn that's been sewn down the side. This is hand spun yarn. And on this side, some more vintage imagery. In this pocket, we have 3 little add-ins. So this is a journal tag with some nice lace on top. A little knitting needle sizes journaling card. It compares American and British and Canadian sizes. And then just this cute little imagery of this girl from a textile, 70s textile book. And on the opposite side, we have a cute page of paper dolls. Oh, it looks like I need to adjust the slide again. There we go. Sorry about that. And on this page, we have a little pin cushion image. And over here is a flip, and you can open it up, and there's a large journal card inside. And this is on more of that Alberta Molds paper. And on the other side is another flip with another large journaling card with coffee dyed paper. And a pocket here, and this is all themed in this really pretty feminine linear illustration. So there's this is on the paper itself, and then this is a large journaling card, and then a little journaling card of a green dress. This book was really nice to make because I was able to use a lot of bigger pieces of ephemera. And on this page, we've got some nice vintage lace. And this is a magazine page of some really cool vintage buttons. And on this side, more buttons and some of that yarn paper, or paper yarn paper. And on this side, in this pocket, we have a couple of journal cards. This large one, an Art Nouveau picture, and then on the back there is sewing pattern paper, and then this girl. So over here we have more kinds of pattern blueprint. I think this is a knitting pattern. So it's really complicated and beautiful. And then this is the center of the signature. So all of the signatures have vintage buttons on them. Maybe I will show them to you close up at the end of the video if I remember. And over here we have another pocket. At the back is this textile image and a large journaling card of pattern paper with yarn, and it's got Easter egg die on the back. And then this is another journaling card of this is a leaf embroidery pattern. Oops. Here we go. And on this side, this is a gold leaf page. So I've painted gold leaf all over this page. It's really pretty. And on the back side is some nice textile images from a magazine. And then just a little flower image from a pattern book. And on this side is some incredible sari fabric. And this is a pocket with this nice big gold applique. And there are 3 little journal cards, little skinny ones that go right in here. And then on this side, it's more of that molding paper, and this is a big pocket with crochet granny squares. And in here we have a couple of things. So first there's this large journaling card that's showing how to do basically the, what's it called, the tassels of a scarf. And then this is a weaving sample of a rainbow warp, and this is some of the original ephemera that I'm including that I inherited from a 70s weaver. And this is a large pocket that is in the subject of natural dyeing. It shows all of the plants and the colors that they can create when you dye with them. And inside is a large card for journaling. And on this side is some more textile images and sort of a granny, not square, but a motif of a flower. And then this is some really cool, this is a pocket with this little image, and this is a really interesting piece of ephemera called Everybody Uses Cotton. And so it's about the history of cotton and how it was used in weaving. It talks about raw cotton producing, how it's cleaned and carded into spinnable fiber. And then it's factory processed into sliver for spinning. And then how it's made into yarn on a machine. And then how it's bleached. And how it's dyed and printed when it's added into a textile. And over here, there's this really interesting sample of raw cotton, cleaned and carded cotton, some yarn, and some of the final product, the fabric. So that's really cute, and it's still got the name of whoever this belonged to on there. So it's a really nice piece of original ephemera. This would be a really nice journal for anybody who's a knitter, spinner, weaver, sewer. You could do so many things with it. You could, you know, keep track of your yardage that you're spinning, or your knitting projects, or maybe some patterns that you're designing, or you could just journal in it. You don't even have to be into the fiber arts to just enjoy this colorful, fun book. So this is more of my hand spun yarn and this really cool 70s dress image. And over here is some pattern paper. And on the back, this nice magazine page with ribbon. And more of the Brazilian crochet blueprint. And that's the end of that signature. And between these two signatures, I've created this fun little crinkly notebook. So it's fabric front and back. And on the inside, it has hand-dyed lined paper, just for more writing. And it could be taken out of the book and could travel with you on a trip, maybe to your local yarn store once we're out of quarantine. And then here I've just clipped this little journaling card. It's two-sided, I believe. Yeah, so it's a double-sided journaling card, and inside is lined paper. And it's on there with a clip, which hopefully you can see. I'll just bring it a little closer. It's just a yellow fabric clip. And this side is fun, painted, acrylic painted paper with this like great imagery of a girl in a washing machine, and some machine instructions on what all those instructions on the tags of your clothes, what they mean, how to wash things. And on this side, it talks about natural fibers, their qualities, the ways to wash them, and some of the advertising page, sort of all those blueprints of crochet blueprints. And two different kinds of patterns. This one is coffee dyed paper. And on this side, some acrylic space and coffee dyed paper. And then this really fun paper. This is a scrapbook paper, but it's a really high quality one. So it's embossed, and every one of these little buttons has a texture. It feels like a real button. So it's really nice to touch. And I made a pocket out of it on this side. And inside here are some journaling cards. So a large journal card with some, these are images from a 70s textile book. And then a journal tag that has a couple of skirts on the front, bias cut and dirndl. So those are different skirt sewing patterns. And over here, some handmade leaf paper, just kind of collaged on this pink paper. And this is a picture of some thread wound around a spool. And this is handmade paper from Koreatown in Toronto, and just some collaging. And this is musical bingo. And this is some nice leafy handmade paper. And over here we have a bunch of instructions on how to work a square and the different stitches that you can use in crochet. And just some nice vintage imagery. And this is children's writing paper that I've sewn some fabric to. And this is the middle of the signature, and more vintage buttons are tied to the inside. And there's a lot of ephemera in this book, so that's more of that beautiful color work motif. And so that's what the two pockets, the paper behind the ephemera, looks like. And here we have a journal card, another journal card that's been sewn, and another little journal card. There's some really cool imagery of different kinds of stitches. This is a little journal card with some ribbon on top. It's like a little writing board. So it's actually a larger journal card. And I love this journal card because I sewed fabric on the front and a little thimble and just kind of sewed stitches around on it and backed it. And this is some crochet lace on a journal card. And more children's writing paper with fabric. And this is a belly band, and inside of it is this big journal card with these skirts. And it's been sewn around with gold thread. And then just a wreath made out of raw cotton. And another really pretty image. And the other side of this with musical bingo. It's from a music book. And this is a tuck, and inside of it are two journal cards, a really large one and this one. And this is just a painted piece of paper, and there's another one of those, this is that beautiful button paper again, and I made a pocket here out of it, and inside are a couple of things. There's a journal card and then one of these samples from the 70s Weaver. And on this side is a pocket on coffee dyed paper, and this cool journal card that has my hand spun yarn that's been sewn down it. It's backed with coffee dyed paper. And then just some watercolor that I painted. You could paint on the back of this. It's really nice heavy watercolor paper. And this is a really neat page of charting information from a knitting book for machine knitting. And you flip this card up and you can journal on this coffee paper. And just some knitting imagery. And now we're to the last signature of the book. So I've clipped on here this journaling, two-sided journaling card, and it has a vintage blue button on a clip. And in between the two signatures, there's a little booklet that I made. I sewed these little booklets to go in between the signatures in some of my books. And here is a tri-fold journaling card. So it just goes on with a clip, and you can remove the clip, and then you have this. And on the back is lined paper for journaling. So that just slips over here like this. And I just adhered it there with this little vintage button on a paper clip. And on this side we have some green painted paper, coffee dyed, some ribbon. and coffee dyed pattern paper, and another of the Alberta molds papers with a big pocket. And inside is a journal card that's made with pineapple crochet lace. Oops. Yeah. This journal's so big I'm getting tired talking about it. And on this side is more of that paper yarn paper. And a ribbon has been sewn to this page. And then this is some more of, I don't know if you saw my last video that I did about the last Fibre Arts journal that I made in the George R.R. Martin book, but this whole series, there will be, I think, 6 of these Fibre and Textile Arts journals. Each one of them will include one of these 1970s booklets that were sent out by the Ontario Hand Weavers and Spinners. So if you've ever been in a guild, well, in the 70s, you used to get these really cool little magazines, and they talked about businesses that don't exist anymore, sadly. It's a bulletin about all sorts of different things, spinning and weaving. There's a Nihilist Leclerc loom advertisement, which that company does still exist. And it's an interview with someone in the Fibre Arts world, a master weaver from the Master Weaver, preventing moths. And some events. Information about weaving rugs and keeping up with other guilds, and a pattern for a shaft warp stripe. And the cool thing about these booklets is each one of them comes with this amazing weaving sample. And on this side of the same piece of paper, I've put a pocket with some stamping behind it that matches the paper, and a journal card and a journal tag. So this is the tag, and then the card is actually like a little crocheted motif. And this is certificate paper. And in this pocket are a couple of nice pieces of ephemera. So a coffee dyed, this is ribbon on the other side, and then this tag as well with this cool vintage image. And this is hand spun yarn. And then some textiles on magazine paper. With some crinkly Easter egg dyed paper. And this is fabric. This is actually a pocket. Both of these are pockets. I must have missed filling them with something. So I will tuck something in both of these pockets before I close it up. And on this side, we have more pockets. This is a dual fold pocket. So in here we have 3 cards. So this is a measuring and this girl and this pattern and this little skirt cutout pattern. So there's just a ton of ephemera in this book. And over here we have a journal tag with my hand spun yarn, coffee dyed paper on back, and a couple more little journal cards. And then a belly band on graph paper with 2 really fun journal cards. This one has a crocheted doily. And over here, another little pocket with more journal cards. That one's really cute with this little mouse pin cushion. And another pocket with even more ephemera. So a really pretty journal tag with brown paper on back. And a cool image with a crocheted flower. And then a little piece of lace on this tag. Some more nice imagery of pin cushions. More of that beautiful color work. And that's the main pattern of the color work. It's so amazing. Hopefully the light's not too harsh, but I'll bring it up a little closer. And then the end of the book, at the back, this is the most incredible page not page, but it's a giant card of all the samples from a yarn company from the 70s, all the colors that they dyed, all the different weights of the yarn that you could buy from them. So I made a big pocket out of it, and there's just, all I put in there is just this big tall journaling card, because I think the intention is to leave enough space for you to tuck whatever you like in there. And so that is the end of this giant tome. This will be going up in my shop probably by the end of this week. I finally got my Etsy shop not relaunched, but reloaded with a few things. So all the journals that I've made videos about already are in there. And today I also added a digital file of some really great collage, digital collaging that I've been having fun doing with sort of a natural science theme. So the shop is fully stocked right now, so just check out Studioloo on Etsy. I will place all of my links to everything in the description box, as I always do. Just look out for the shop. If you would like to see more of my videos, please subscribe. I'm going to be doing a lot more different series of videos, not just journal walkthroughs. I'm working on 2 different series right now, and I would love to have you subscribe and like this video if you'd like to see more like it. So have a great day, stay safe, and thanks for watching.